The $6 Million Man is an American science fiction and action television series running from 1973 to 1978 about a former astronaut, USAF Colonel Steve Austin, portrayed by Lee Majors. After a NASA test flight accident, Austin is rebuilt with bionic implants, which give him superhuman strength, speed and vision. Austin is then employed as a secret agent by a fictional U.S. government office titled OSI. The series was based on Martin Kading's 1972 novel Cyborg, which was the working title of the series during pre-production. Following 3 television films intended as pilots, which all aired in 1973, the $6 Million Man television series aired on the ABC network as a regular episodic series for 5 seasons from 1974 to 1978. Steve Austin became a pop culture icon of the 1970s. A spin-off television series, The Bionic Woman, featuring the lead female character Jamie Sommers, ran from 1976 to 1978. 3 television movies featuring both bionic characters were also produced from 1987 to 1994. Original series. When NASA astronaut USAF Colonel Steve Austin is severely injured in the crash of an experimental lifting body aircraft, he is rebuilt in an operation that costs $6 million, equivalent to $41.5 million in 2024. His right arm, both legs and left eye are replaced with bionic implants that enhance his strength, speed and vision far above human norms. He can run at speeds of over 60 miles per hour, 97 kilometers per hour, and his eye has a 20:1 zoom lens and infrared capabilities, while his bionic limbs all have the equivalent power of a bulldozer. He uses his enhanced abilities to work for the OSI, Office of Scientific Intelligence, as a secret agent. Kading's novel Cyborg was a bestseller when it was published in 1972. He followed it up with 3 sequels, Operation Nuke, High Crystal, and Cyborg 4, respectively, about a black market in nuclear weapons, a Chariots of the Gods scenario, and fusing Austin's bionic hardware to a spaceplane. In March 1973, Cyborg was loosely adapted as a made-for-TV movie titled The $6 Million Man, starring Majors as Austin. The producer's first choice was Monte Markham. When re-edited for the later series, it was retitled The Moon and the Desert, Parts 1 and 2. The adaptation was done by writer Howard Rodman, working under the pseudonym of Henri Simon. The film, which was nominated for a Hugo Award, modified Kading's plot and notably made Austin a civilian astronaut rather than a colonel in the United States Air Force. Absent were some of the standard features of the later series, the electronic sound effects, the slow-motion running, and the character of Oscar Goldman. Instead, another character named Oliver Spencer, played by Darren McGavin, was Austin's supervisor of an organization here called the Office of Strategic Operations, or OSO. In the novels, OSO stood for Office of Special Operations. The CIA did have an Office of Scientific Intelligence in the 1970s. The lead scientist involved in implanting Austin's bionic hardware, Rudy Wells, was played in the pilot by Martin Balsam, then on an occasional basis in the series by Alan Oppenheimer, and finally, as a series regular, by Martin E. Brooks. Austin did not use the enhanced capabilities of his bionic eye during the first TV movie. The first movie was a major ratings success, and was followed by 2 more made-for-TV movies in October and November 1973, as part of ABC's rotating Movie of the Week series. The first was titled The $6 Million Man, Wine, Women and War, and the second was titled The $6 Million Man, The Solid Gold Kidnapping. The first of these 2 bore strong resemblances to Kading's second Cyborg novel, Operation Nuke. The second, however, was an original story. This was followed in January 1974 by the debut of The $6 Million Man as a weekly hour-long series. The latter 2 movies, produced by Glenn A. Larson, notably introduced a James Bond flavor to the series and reinstated Austin's status from the novels as an Air Force colonel. The hour-long series, produced by Harve Bennett, dispensed with the James Bond gloss of the movies and portrayed a more down-to-earth Austin. Majors said of Austin, he hates the whole idea of spying. He finds it repugnant, degrading. If he's a James Bond, he's the most reluctant one we've ever had. Use of deadly force by Austin, frequent in Kading's novels and employed occasionally in the movies and early episodes, also decreased as the series progressed. The show was very popular during its run and introduced several pop culture elements of the 1970s, such as the show's opening catchphrase, "We can rebuild him, we have the technology," voiced over by Richard Anderson in his role of Oscar Goldman, the slow-motion action sequences, and the accompanying electronic sound effects. The slow-motion action sequences were originally referred to as Kung Fu slow motion in popular culture, due to its use in that 1970s martial arts television series, although according to the Bionic book by Herbie J. Pilato, the use of slow motion on the series was inspired by its use by NFL films. In 1975, a two-part episode titled The Bionic Woman, written for television by Kenneth Johnson, introduced the lead character Jamie Sommers, played by Lindsay Wagner, a professional tennis player who rekindled an old romance with Austin, only to experience a parachuting accident that resulted in her being given bionic parts similar to Austin. Ultimately, her body rejected her bionic hardware and she died. The character was very popular, however, and the following season it was revealed that she had survived, having been saved by an experimental cryogenic procedure, and she was given her own spin-off series, The Bionic Woman. This spin-off ran until 1978, when both it and The $6 Million Man was simultaneously cancelled, though the two series were on different networks when their final seasons aired. Television movie reunions. Steve Austin and Jamie Sommers returned in 3 subsequent made-for-television movies: The Return of the $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman, 1987, Bionic Showdown, The $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman, 1989, which featured Sandra Bullock in an early role as a new Bionic Woman, and Bionic Ever After, 1994, in which Austin and Sommers finally marry. Majors reprised the role of Steve Austin in all 3 productions, which also featured Richard Anderson and Martin E. Brooks, and Lindsay Wagner reprising the role of Jamie Sommers. The reunion films addressed the partial amnesia Sommers had suffered during the original series, and all 3 featured Majors' son, Lee Majors too, as OSI agent Jim Castilian. The first 2 movies were written in the anticipation of creating new bionic characters in their own series, but nothing further was seen of the new characters introduced in those produced. The third TV movie was intended as a finale. Opening sequence. The crash footage during the opening credits is from the M2F2 crash that occurred on May 10, 1967. Test pilot Bruce Peterson's lifting body aircraft hit the ground at approximately 250 miles per hour, 402 kilometers per hour, and tumbled 6 times, but survived what appeared to be a fatal accident, though he later lost an eye due to infection. In the episode, The Deadly Replay, Oscar Goldman refers to the lifting body aircraft in which Austin crashed as the HL-10, stating, "We've rebuilt the HL-10. The HL-10 is the aircraft first seen in the original pilot movie before the accident flight. In the 1987 TV film The Return of the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman, Austin refers to the craft as the M3F5, which was the name used for the aircraft that crashed in the original Cyborg novel. In the opening sequence, a narrator, series producer Harve Bennett, identifies the protagonist, Steve Austin, astronaut. A man barely alive. Richard Anderson, in character as Oscar Goldman, then intones off-camera, "Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man. Steve Austin will be that man. Better than he was before. Better, stronger, faster." During the first season, beginning with population 0, Anderson, as Goldman, intoned more simply, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We can make him better than he was. Better, stronger, faster. During the operation, when he is having his bionics fitted, a list of items and numbers is displayed and lists his power plant as atomic. To maintain the show's plausibility, producer Kenneth Johnson set very specific limits on Steve Austin's abilities. He elaborated, when you're dealing with the area of fantasy, if you say, well, they are bionic so they can do whatever they want, then it gets out of hand. So you've got to have really, really tight rules. Steve and Jamie can jump up 2 stories, but not 3. They can jump down 3 stories, but not 4. Austin's superhuman enhancements are a bionic left eye. It has a 20.2:1 zoom lens along with a night vision function, as well as the restoration of normal vision. The figure of 20.2:1 is taken from the faux computer graphics in the opening credits. The figure 20:1 is mentioned twice in the series, in the episode Population 0 and Secret of Bigfoot. Austin's bionic eye also has other features, such as an infrared filter used frequently to see in the dark and also to detect heat, as in the episode The Pioneers, and the ability to view humanoid beings moving too fast for a normal eye to see, as in the story arc, The Secret of Bigfoot. One early episode shows the eye as a deadly accurate targeting device for his throwing arm. In Kading's original novels, Austin's eye was depicted as simply a camera, which had to be physically removed after use, and Austin remained blind in the eye. Later, Austin gained the ability to shoot a laser from the eye. The Charlton Comics comic book spin-off from the series also established that Austin's bionic eye could shoot a laser beam, as demonstrated in the first issues of the color comic, but neither function was shown on television. Bionic legs. These allow him to run at tremendous speed and make great leaps. Austin's upper speed limit was never firmly established, although a speed of 60 miles per hour, 97 kilometers per hour, is commonly quoted since this figure is shown on a speed gauge during the opening credits. The highest speed ever shown in the series on a speed gauge is 67 miles per hour, 108 kilometers per hour. In The Palmyre Escort, however, the later revival films suggested that he could run approximately 90 miles per hour, 145 kilometers per hour. A faster top speed is possible, as an episode of the Bionic Woman spin-off entitled Winning is Everything shows female cyborg Jamie Sommers outrunning a race car going 100 miles per hour, 161 kilometers per hour. In Secret of Bigfoot, it is stated that he can leap 30 feet, 9.1 meters, high. In the later TV movies, Austin is shown leaping heights that clearly appear to be far in excess of this. A bionic right arm. It has the equivalent strength of a bulldozer. That the arm contains a Geiger counter was established in Doomsday and Counting, the 6th episode of the first season. The implants have a major flaw in that extreme cold interferes with their functions and can disable them given sufficient exposure. However, when Austin returns to a warmer temperature, the implants quickly regain full functionality. The first season also established that Austin's bionics malfunction in the microgravity of space, though Austin's bionics are later modified to rectify this. The bionic eye is vulnerable to ultrasonic attack, resulting in blindness and dizziness. It is not explained how Austin's organic body is able to withstand the stress of either bionic hardware weight or performance of superhuman feats. To indicate to viewers that Austin was using his bionic enhancements, sequences with him performing superhuman tasks were presented in slow motion and accompanied by an electronic dit-dit-dit-dit sound effect. This characteristic sound effect was actually first used in Season 1 Episode 4, Day of the Robot, not during use of Austin's bionics, but with the robotic clone of Major Fred Sloan, played by actor John Saxon, during the final fight scene. When the bionic eye was used, the camera zoomed in on Austin's face, followed by an extreme close-up of his eye. His point of view usually included a crosshair motif accompanied by a beeping sound effect. In early episodes, different ways of presenting Austin's powers were tested, including a heartbeat sound effect that predated the electronic sound, and in the 3 original made